Hey, it's the preseason finale. It's day 59. My new life is on the horizon. I've done a lot of thinking lately. First, of how I've had to fight for happiness in the present moment, and also how the future doesn't exist. And I think these two ideas are actually super interconnected, but I'll save it for when I speak, aka right now. For now, let's talk about my life. That is emerging. I feel my mind shedding old ways of thought and grounding heavily into my body and the world around me. The previous modes of unsustainable existence are dissolving to cultivate something that requires focus, grit, and tenacity. And that can only be learned through experience. A past that must be made. A past made creates a future that can be experienced. The past is real, the future is not. So, how will you create? Whoa, kind of like it like this. So we're gonna have some duller lighting. But yeah. Okay, so first let's talk about where I got these idea about the future not being real. It's off this TikTok that I saw, and I was talking about like African philosophy or spirituality or something like that, and it gave me a very short synopsis, and it was basically like the future isn't real, only the very near future is real, and the past is what is real. And like changing the way that we look at time into being something like this really changes the ways that we navigate ourselves. You know, when I first watched it, I was like, yeah, that makes sense to me. That is gonna be applied to my everyday life when it comes to being, and that's happening right now. So when we're thinking about this, I feel like, to me, after just thinking about it for a little bit, it's extremely obvious, you know? All that we ever see around us is the past. All that we can ever experience is the past. You know, the future isn't anything. And what we currently experience is the present moment. The present moment is all that there is, ultimately. Right? That state of just being, I feel like a lot of us try to acquire through meditation or something. That just is the present moment, and everything else beyond that is the past. You know, what you create is the past. You don't create your future, you create the past and live in the present. You get me? And that has really been like settling into me, and I really think that that type of framework, that type of ideation is gonna push me down a path that's very healthy and sustainable towards creating the things that I want. You know, when I'm saying the past is what we make, the first thing that I'm thinking about is all the drawings that I've been doing. You know, I've made drawing after drawing, creating the history of this. You know, this was never the future. It could have only ever been the present moment and the past. And now I've made the past. You know, I've made something beautiful. And that ideation makes me feel like the effect that I have on the world is much deeper. It really allows me to see that I do have an effect. I do have something of value, and I do have a purpose that I can lay out there. You know, I feel like we've always been pushed into thinking about, oh, you need to think about the future. The future is where your reality lives. You know, if you're not thinking about tomorrow, then what are you doing? Tomorrow isn't here, man. You know what's here? Now. You know, having less now so I could have some tomorrow, that is a movement of the present moment. You know, conservation is ideation of the present moment. To say that I'll have this for tomorrow as well. But you don't know what's gonna happen tomorrow, but you'll know that you have that. That's all that matters. Blah 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 blah. Right? I think when it comes to attaching ourselves to the future, we've really wanted to have control over how it flows, but what we have control over is how the past is created for us. That makes sense? Um, I do a lot of talk about the plants and the wildlife that there is. Hold up. My snake plant. It too has only been existing in the past. Oh, I need to water you. I've been starving you because they said that you can do that and survive. But, it only exists in the past. The effort that it goes into its growth exists in the present moment, but it doesn't know where it's going to be going. It just has like a general idea in hopes that its effort can help it attain that. And like thinking about it in this lens, when I reflect about how my growth has been gone about for this summer, I've hit and surpassed every one of my goals that I've set for myself. And it's not because I was thinking about the future when it came to any of them. I was thinking about the present moment and the fact that I wanted to do something that that I could look back upon and be like, I did that. I'm proud of that. And I think that's where we struggle as a society. We want the future to come now without making the past for it. You get me? Confirmation. When we think about these socialist societies that we all like yearn for, so we can have that democratic establishment within the economy, what does the past look like to create these circumstances? We speak of violent revolution, but there must also be an equally strong force that connects individuals together so such a democratic solution can be felt. There is no purpose of violence if there is no connecting force between it. Otherwise, it is just destruction for the sake of it. Right? So, what does the past look like for socialist ideation? We can look at history and get a general idea of what must be undertaken. And I think it first starts with personal accountability and personal cultivation and connection with the other individuals, particularly on a platonic scale, so that this community can be felt. But what do I know? I'm just some guy. But I really think there's something there. But when this goes back to me and how I've been accessing my creativity and going forth about how I've been really trying to exercise my self-deterministic principles to its fullest, what does that look like for me? I am creating my past. It's something that I feel like has only been able to fully register into my mind recently, just because like I didn't have the language for it. I was always going about it as I'm just living and I'm going through things, and like I try to be happy in the present moment, but it's hard to be in the present moment, and it's just like whoa. But it's like these ups and downs is what allows me to reflect upon the past, and no matter how short a span may be, might be something from earlier today, with the with the deeper sense of gratitude, because it's like my body made that, my speech made that, my action made that. This is my life. It deserves to be thought about with some respect towards it. in the ways that I'm participating in it. And I feel that it's incredibly important to take that time to be patient with ourselves when it comes to how we are going about creating a life that matters to us. You know, especially for all of my friends. We live in the United States and we are about to suffer through an incredibly difficult time period. And I think that we should try our best to understand before we act. And not just that, we should connect and speak up. We have individual power, and state violence exists to threaten you into submission. We do not exist as debt peons. So how do you go against that? Don't pay that debt and make something more important. You know, the first thing when it comes to this is, how do you escape the bondage of your bills, you know? I have a house that I need to keep over my head, and you're telling me that I should just throw that to the side? I need to survive. How am I supposed to do that? You know? This is where you gotta get violent. Or, you know, who knows? Maybe shit might collapse and we can work with these states in a deeper manner so that individuals can have full ownership over the land, you know? Talk with your governments and shit. I don't know. What do I know? You know, literally, like, I have no faith in this system, bro. So it's literally just like, we gotta change the means of ownership to the niggas that really do the shit, bro. The fuck? Why does some fucker over there get to sit on a couch raking in profits for something that they don't get to lay their finger on? You know? Aggravating. Okay. This is going down a different path. But yeah, let's make a past that means something to us. Let's make a past that we can look over with fond memories and reverence. You know? Not just on an individual level, but on a collective scale. Even if I know for a fact that this video won't get too many views, this is something that matters. Our individuality is something that is beautiful, and you should maximize it to its fullest. Even if you don't know how to be creative, just be you. You know, your identity is deeper than a brand. Your identity is amorphous. It's like water. Be patient. Take your time and grow. You know, I've been doing this series for 60 days. I was some butt at it at first, but I feel much more confident now. And where we're currently at, it is the practice of rigidity, the practice of discipline. So just keep at it. Don't give up. You don't know where any of your journeys will take you. So do it for 2 weeks to see if it's for you. And do it for 60 days if you just want to do it for fun. I'll see you guys tomorrow in the series finale.